How did each state trend at a presidential level between 1976 and 2024? That's what we're going to find out today. Last week, we took a look at the swings in each state. Today, we're going to compare those swings to the national swing, and that's going to give us the trends. We'll explain it in just a minute, and if you want to skip ahead to the map, there'll be a chapter down below in the description. But first, we've got to real quickly go over the two elections we're going to compare. So here's 1976. It was won by Jimmy Carter, the Democrat. He got 297 electoral votes. He carried 23 states and D.C., and he just got a majority of the vote at 50.1. Gerald Ford took the loss. He finished with 240 electoral votes with 27 states and 48%. And take a look at that map. We've got a red West Coast and a blue South. Then in 24, you've seen it a million times, but Trump won it with 312. He carried 31 states and Maine second. He got 49.8%. Kamala Harris took the loss with 226. She got 19 states, D.C. and Nebraska second with 48.3%. Now let's get on to everybody's favorite. It's a spreadsheet. On the left, we've got the states. Then it's the 76 vote for Carter, then for Ford. Then it's the 24 vote for Harris, then Trump. Then we've got the margin for 76 shaded accordingly. Then it's the same for 24. Then we've got the column from last week. These are the swings in each state. That's just the difference between the two previous columns. And the last column all the way on the right is the trend. This is going to compare the swing in each individual state to the nation as a whole. That'll give us the trend, or how much each state moved relative to how much the entire country moved. And there's also shading in this column. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. The lightest colors are under 5%. So first we've got to get our baseline. That's the national popular vote. In 1976 for Carter, it was 50.1. Ford got 48%. In 24, Kamala Harris was at 48.3. Trump at 49.8. The margin for Carter in 76 was 2.1. The margin for Trump in 24 was 1.5. So that means the entire country moved 2.1 away from Carter, another 1.5 toward Trump. That comes out to a national popular vote swing of 3.6. So any state that swung more than 3.6 toward the GOP is going to have a red trend. Anything under that is going to be a blue trend. So let's go through the first state. We've got Alabama. In 1976, it was won by Carter. He got 55.7. Gerald Ford was at 42.6. 48 years later, Kamala Harris went down to 34.1. Trump went up to 64.6. The margin for Carter in 76 was 13.1. The margin for Trump in 24 was 30.5. That's 13.1 away from Carter, another 30.5 toward Trump. That comes out to a 43.6% swing toward the GOP. And that's obviously way more than that national popular vote swing of 3.6. So that's simple math. 43.6 minus the 3.6 the country already moved, you get an even 40% trend toward the Republicans. Let's look at the second state, Alaska. That state voted for the Republican both times, but it did swing 9.1 toward the Dems. That's in the opposite direction of the national swing of 3.6. So that's 3.6 away from the Republicans, another 9.1 toward the Dems. That combines to a trend of 12.7 toward the Dems. So that's how this works. Now we can quickly go through the rest of these states. Arizona also had a blue trend of 14.6. Arkansas had the biggest trend out of every state. That's 57% toward the Republicans. Now we've got some significant blue trends. California, 25.6. Colorado, 26.1. Connecticut, 23.3. And Delaware, 12.9. In Florida, they trended redder at 14.8. Georgia, of course, Carter's home state at 76. That trended hard toward the right at 32.3. Hawaii is back in the other direction at 24.2. But Idaho is back toward the right at 10.1. Illinois again is back toward the Dems at 16.5. And now we've got red trends in Indiana at 7.7, Iowa 8.6, Kansas 5, Kentucky 34.1, and Louisiana 10 less than that at 24.1. More blue trends are in Maine at 11.3, Maryland 26.1, Massachusetts 13.1, and Michigan 7.6. Then more GOP-friendly trends are in Minnesota at 5.1, Mississippi 21.2, Missouri 18.4, and Montana 8.9. Now we're going to go back the other way and look at more trends friendly toward the Dems. It's Nebraska 3.7, Nevada 4.9, New Hampshire 17.8, New Jersey 11.7, New Mexico 12.2, and New York 11.6. Some more red states are going to be North Carolina, 10.1, North Dakota, 27, Ohio, 7.6, and Oklahoma, 29.5. Oregon is back toward the Dems at 18.1. Pennsylvania had the smallest trend out of all the states, just 0.8% toward Trump and the Republicans. Rhode Island had a modest blue trend of 6. Then more double-digit red trends in South Carolina, 27.3, South Dakota, 24.1, Tennessee, 39.1, and Texas, 13.2. Now double-digit blue trends. We've got Utah, 11.1. Vermont had the biggest trend for the Dems out of all the states. It's way up there at 46.3. Virginia is back down there at 10.6, and Washington is between the two at 25.7. West Virginia is way back up there toward the Republicans at 54.5. Wisconsin, a minor blue trend of 1%, and Wyoming is toward the GOP at a big 22.7. And last is Washington, D.C. That blue district trended toward the Dems, similar to Wyoming at 22.3. And those are all of the states and all of the trends. Then, as we do every time, we're going to take all this data, we're going to put it on a map. If we do that, this is what we've got. It's very similar shading. 4 levels. The darkest colors are 10 or more points. This time, the lightest colors, the tilt margins, are going to be under 1%. There's only one state this time. That is Pennsylvania. Wisconsin just missed it. That was at 1.0. So what are the takeaways from any of these shifts? Well, at the top, you can see it's a very even split of trends. Using the current electoral votes, the Dems come out barely ahead at 272, Republicans 266. That's a 10-vote difference from the video last week, which was just the swings. The thing that changed are the 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin. They swung toward the Republicans, but not by enough to escape the blue trend. So that video, it was red. This one, it's blue. Overall, some of the other states got a shade bluer, but we still see the Dems dominating in the West, the Southwest, and the Northeast. Republicans do well in the upper Great Plains and much of the South. The Midwest is kind of split, especially if you focus on the Rust Belt. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, all different shades. But Pennsylvania did move closest to how the entire country did. You've got a few other states that are lightly colored, like Nevada, Nebraska, and Rhode Island. But for the most part, this is almost like how the map looks today. A couple of exceptions are going to be Utah being dark blue and Nebraska being light blue. But you've also got Minnesota being moderately red. As for the swing states, that's a total mix. You've got Arizona dark blue, Georgia is dark red, same for North Carolina, and everything else is in between. And you can't forget about Alaska up there. They're also shaded dark blue. So not a dramatic amount of movement in the national popular vote. Both of these elections were relatively close. Carter did a little bit better in the popular vote, but Trump did a little bit better in the Electoral College. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. But none of these were total blowouts compared to some of the other ones we're used to, like the landslide for Reagan in '84. But certain states have moved a ton, others have barely budged at all. They've got different reasons for the political paths they've taken. Sometimes it's the candidates, sometimes it's the issues, sometimes it's the demographics, sometimes it's a lot of things, and it's complicated. But without getting into all that, if you just wanted to know the presidential trends between 1976 and 2024, this is the map right here. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the trends in any of these states? Which 2 or 3 states stand out to you the most? Why is Rhode Island not as dark as the surrounding states? Why is Minnesota red? Why is Nebraska blue and Kansas red? Let me know what stands out to you the most down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.